Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Orc, and today I'm going to be making my very first programming language tutorial on Core. So, in Core is a game engine, alright? You don't have to know how to program to use it, but all the best games program. So, you need to learn this, alright? You need to learn this. It's just also, bro, it's so cool being a programmer. You have no idea, okay? So I'm gonna be teaching you guys how to make scripts in Core. The programming language Core uses is called Lua. So you're gonna be hearing me call it Lua a lot. And a programming language is basically I'm speaking English right now. It's the language that I use to communicate with you guys watching the video. And it's like for us, a programmer speaks to the computer using a programming language, and that's what Lua is. So, alright, so I'm gonna type tutorial. This is how you create a new script, by the way. You click over here, you're gonna see like a paper kind of thing. Click that and then create new script, and then click create new script. Whenever you finish creating the script, it's gonna spawn in here. It's called in the project content window, and you're gonna see over here in the my scripts window, you're gonna see the script that you just made. What you want to do is you want to drag it out over here, because if you don't drag it into your game, this is your game, by the way, it's called the hierarchy. It contains all the objects in your game. If you don't drag it out here, it's kind of like reading a book or trying to read a book that's inside of your backpack, which you can't see because it's inside of your backpack. So you want to take your script out of your backpack and you want to drag it over here. I'm going to delete it because I just dragged it 2 times because I'm a noob. So let's get right into this. You want to open up your script by double clicking it after you drag it into the game. I'm going to put it full screen. So in this video, what I'm going to be going over is just simple Lua programming. Alright, first thing we're going to learn is how to print stuff to the output window. Alright, so this is how you print. First is print, and this is a command that prints out something to the output window. It's very useful for programming. You might not see the use right now, but it's very useful for debugging. That's all you need to know, okay? So I'm gonna print out this message. Hey, you should totally subscribe right now. And I'm gonna save it. You save it by pressing Control S. If you want to, you can press F5 to compile it and see if there's any errors in your script, which there's not. I'm gonna close this and then I'm gonna run it. Now I'm gonna press escape and stop the game, because if you didn't notice, whenever you start the game, your mouse kind of logs, and it locks into the player's camera. I find this kind of annoying because I can't view the event log without stopping the game. So I'm going to stop the game. And the way you view the event log, aka the output window, aka where the print statement that we just typed earlier is going to be printing values out to, is by going to window and then you go to event log, you click it, you're going to see the message you just typed out. And you see that it says, hey, you should totally subscribe right now, which you should totally do. Alright, so let's go back to the script. And let's move on. So print text here, prints out values to the output window. Alright, so by values, you'll see what I mean by values, okay? So in Lua programming, there's many different types of values. I don't want to type them, so I'm just gonna copy and paste it. So, alright, so let's start with this. Nil. Nil means nothing. It's not 0, it's nothing. Keep that in your mind. Nil means nothing. So, if your program prints out nil, it means that you asked it to do something that was nothing, okay? You'll see what I mean later. Boolean is a true or false value. So like, did you wash the table? It's yes or no, so it's true or false. kind of like that. Number is pretty self-explanatory. It's number. String is text. User data, you do not need to know about that. Function, you do not need to know about that either. Thread, same. All right, table, number, string, and nil, and boolean. That's pretty much what I'm gonna be going over. So, nil is nothing. Boolean is true or false. Nothing else. Alright. Number is a number like 1, 2, 3, or 1.1, 1.3. Okay, I just messed that up. Whatever. You'll know what I mean. String is text like, hey, you should really subscribe. That is string. And table, I'll be going over that later, okay? So, first thing we're gonna be going over is strings, because we just typed one out here right now. So, as you can see up here, whenever we printed out something to the output window, it literally just printed out something to the output window. We had something within our within the parentheses, and this is text, so this is considered a string. This is a string value, the stuff we have between our parentheses. So if I do type, which type is another function, and a function takes in data and does something with it. So, type is a function because it takes in data and it does something with it, and so is print. Print is a function as well because it takes in the data, which in this case was, hey, you should totally subscribe right now, and it prints it out to the output window. So it's a function because it takes in data and it does something with it. Simple. Alright, so now I'm going to combine two functions, which is the print function, which means it's going to print it out. It's going to print something out to the output window, and the type function. And what the type function is it gets the type of the data that you're passing on. And the data you're passing on is called an argument. Alright, so we're passing on the arguments. Hey, you should totally subscribe right now. That is our argument in this case for the type function. And for the print function, everything between the two parentheses you see here are arguments, aka data being passed on. And arguments, the reason we use that is because that is programming terminology for data that you pass on to a function. Alright, so the type function, the type function gets the type of the arguments that you've passed on to it, and then the print function prints out the stuff that you pass on to it. So now try to guess what's going to happen whenever we run our code. Alright, so remember, I'm going to do pause because it's going to lock my mouse into it. I can't get out because my mouse is stuck in here. I'm going to do pause, and I'm going to click, I'm going to open up the event window again, and you can see that it has printed out the word string. And if we look back over here, remember that I said string is text, and since this is text, this is a string value. This is considered a string value by the engine. In the Lua programming language, this is considered a string value because it's text. And since it's text, that's what the type function says. The type function recognizes that this is string because it's text, and it returns the value of the arguments that we passed on. And the print, what print does is it prints out the stuff that type returned to the output window, which is over here, the event log. Alright, so and that is what print and type do. That's the basics of values. Now, I'm going to show you guys how to make a variable. If you have taken math up to high school, you should know what this is, because you should probably have learned this. But in the case that you haven't, or you aren't in high school, this is what a variable is. A variable is, since programmers, even though we're super smart, we're super smart hackers, we can't predict the future, right? So what we do is we use variables to hold unknown values as a placeholder for unknown values. So, like, if John has 10 apples, okay? So let's say he has 10 apples and Steve gives him 1 apple, you would have 11 apples, right? But what if we don't know how many apples John has? In this case, what we do is we use a variable, and what a variable is, it's like a stand-in for an unknown value. So we just type in a letter in programming. So now John is J, because the amount of apples John has is now J, because we don't know how many apples he has. And variables are really useful. You really need to know this. I've never met in my life a programmer that doesn't know what variables are, okay? You cannot be a programmer without knowing what variables are. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys how to create a variable. This is how you do it. First, you type in local, and then you type in the name of the variable, and then you give it a value. Or if you don't have a value, you just don't type anything and you move on with your life, okay? So I'm gonna give this a value of 1. Now if I print out name of variable, I'm gonna X this out. By the way, guys, you will notice that this stuff doesn't affect the stuff in my output window. This is called a comment. This is what programmers use to mark their code. The computer doesn't run this part, so it's just for programmers to organize their code and label it and stuff. It actually doesn't get run. The computer just skips over it, so it doesn't mess up your program. But yeah, all right, let's get down into it. So I'm gonna X out, and I'm gonna run this right here, and then I'm gonna stop it. And you can see that it's very small. I don't know if you can see this, but it says 1. It printed out the number 1. And that's because we assigned the number 1 to the variable that we called name of the variable. So now when you print out name of the variable, it prints out the value that you assigned it. Okay, now when I print out, remember the type function, it gets the type of the variable that we just created. So now whenever I print it out, right, it's printed out number. You can see right here, number, which is, we went over that a while back. Number is a value, a type is a name of a value that is a number. Okay, so it's like how text is called string in programming, number is called number. Alright, so yeah. Okay, now I'm gonna do some fancy math. Not really fancy math, but I'm gonna rename this so it's super easy to type. And I'm gonna make another variable called y, and I'm gonna put it to 2. Now I'm gonna print out x plus y. Now when I saved it and started up, printed out 3. You can see that you can do basic math with variables, or there's another thing that I want to show you guys. So I'm going to delete this y right here. I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to put 2 dashes right in front of it, which turns it into a comment. And comments aren't run by the computer, so it just totally skips over this. It doesn't even know it's there. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to delete this. Try to guess what this is going to print out. If it's a variable, it has nothing assigned to it. Try to guess what this will print out. Printed out nil. And remember, we said that nil is nothing. So whenever you try to do something with nothing, like it doesn't exist, the program is going to print out nil, or it's going to give you an error. Okay, so remember, don't try to do stuff with nothing unless you're doing it on purpose. In that case, it's fine. All right, so that is the basics of programming in Lua. Those are values. There's different types of values that I'll be going over later, and I'm going to go over strings really quickly because you might be thinking we already went through everything. I'm going to be going over strings. So in programming, strings are actually a sequence of characters, because strings are called complex values because they are complex. All right, so strings are complex values, which means they take in more parts. It's not like one number, like a number value. It's composed of many different parts. So for example, you might be thinking, like, let's assign this variable. Let's delete all this garbage. Okay, let's assign this variable to hey. You might be thinking, that is so simple, unbelievably simple. All right, by the way, it doesn't matter whether or not you use double quotes or single quotes whenever you're printing out stuff, but just remember that if you're doing something and you have like an apostrophe in a word, like say you're trying to print out don't do this or something. So if I do don't, you're gonna notice that it messes up because don't has an apostrophe in it, and we're using single quotes. So in this case, you should use double quotes so you don't get an error. So whenever you have a single quote in your text, use double quotes. Whenever you have double quotes in your text, use single quotes. Okay, easy. All right, so strings, like I was saying, are complex values, which means they are composed of many different parts. So this variable is assigned to the word hey, and this looks so simple, unbelievably simple to you, right? But it's actually read by the the computer, like this. This is what the computer sees, because a string is a list of smaller characters. Okay, so that's what strings are. Now let's move on to tables. Okay, this is how you create tables. First, I'm going to do, it's the same thing as creating a variable, except instead of putting a value at the end, put two brackets, and in those brackets you put in a table of values. It's pretty obvious what you do. All right, so now in the table there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So if I print this out, if I start the game with this in it, I didn't do anything with this. Alright, so it didn't do anything with the variable that I just created, because I just created the variable. I didn't do anything with it. I didn't tell it to do anything with it. So alright, that's pretty weird. Did I do something wrong? Alright, I just realized I forgot to save my code, which means the computer was running the old version of the code, the one with nothing in it. So you see, whenever I printed out table, what it did is it just gave me a bunch of stuff that nobody needs to know. It gives me a bunch of numbers, okay? And that is because it's giving us basically where the table is in the computer. The bunch of numbers you see right here is a memory location. If you don't know what that is, it's okay. But if you do, you'll have fun knowing that, I guess. Alright, so that's what happens whenever you print out a table. If you want to print out the values, I'll be going over that later, but that is what it is. Okay, so a table is also a complex value, and it can store many things in it. It can also store strings like hey, or you should subscribe. It can store strings, it can store other values in it, and that is what a table is. It's like a string, but composed of different values. Okay, And those are the basics of values. That is going to be it for today, guys. I have been scripting way too much today, and I need a break. So I'm going to be ending the video over here. I'm going to be ending the video here. I may make scripting tutorials, more of these, maybe perhaps advanced ones if you guys want me to, or if this video gets enough attention. But thank you for watching this video. Hope you have fun scripting and never give up. Bye.